Okay, so today's pepper review is going to be on the Alma Paprika Pepper. Okay, so let's take a closer look at the Alma Paprika Pepper. And this is a nice pepper. I have grown it for a few years. This pepper generally goes from a bone blonde color to a orange color like you see here. And then you see it'll go to a red color. And red is obviously its most ripe, but you can harvest these pretty much at any stage. A lot of people like to grow these peppers for pickling purposes. So I just grow them for the fun of them and just plain and simply eating them, really. But if I did pickle, this would be one of the peppers I'd like to pickle. And there's a reason for that, and I'll talk about that once I get into the taste test part of the review. So it's a standard leaf type of plant. As far as the stem goes, it's a smooth, waxy stem, and it has very little purpling in it. You'll see some purpling at the nodes on this plant, but really no purpling in the main part of the stem. And normally this plant, when it's growing at its optimal conditions, this plant will be a pretty good producer. Last year, I had gotten well over 2 dozen peppers off of one plant, and that was all peppers this size. And all the rest of the smaller ones that really towards the real end of the year, they didn't really develop fully, but there were a lot more of those. So almost probably 3 dozen, maybe 4 dozen with all of the smaller ones. And they weren't that much smaller, but they weren't quite this size. This is a nice size pepper here. So let's take this off the plant without breaking the plant and take a closer look at it and try to get you some better light here. And that's a better look at it. That's the bottom. That's what the top looks like. Now, some people might refer to this pepper as a pumpkin pepper. This isn't really what you would call a pumpkin pepper. I'll show you what pumpkin peppers look like. Normally this shape of this pepper doesn't get this convoluted like this. It doesn't normally get like that. It's more of a round shape, but the tops do get some convolutions in it. It's just this one really convoluted a lot. And if you look on the bottom, you can see 1, 2, 3 chambers. You see this little Y in there. Those are the hollow pockets on it. And that's normal for this. But normally it's not as pronounced. This year it really got pronounced. It was just a really hard year for pepper plants. It only put this one pepper out, and it really needs to mature quite a bit to get a lot more peppers. It's really hard to get peppers to grow up in northeastern Pennsylvania. We got a very short growing season, and plants like peppers and other kinds of plants are really hard to grow up here because we just simply don't have enough time for the plants to actually mature. So we could get away with peppers, some varieties. We could get away with tomato plants for the most part and stuff like that. But outside that, it's really hard to grow most vegetables this far north. And unfortunately, some of these pepper varieties, like this one, it's really hard to get these peppers to be very productive or produce a lot of peppers. And that's because the plant really needs to mature. And usually we only have maybe 3 months, maybe 4 months, and that's it. If you can get a head start on it and get these plants started indoors, like in February and March, and then they're pretty good size and you bring them out, you'll get a pretty good production out of that year coming up, because now the plant's pretty big and you got a good 5 months, 6 months ahead of it all the way to the frost. And if it's in a pot, you can bring it back in and you'll get more of these peppers. So anyway, that's a little bit all I know about this pepper. I'll put the information in the description more about what it is, where it comes from and stuff, and you can read about it. So let's do a taste test. All right, so let's take a closer look at the Alma Paprika Pepper. Now this is a sweet pepper, and there's no heat in it, so we don't have to cover the heat. But this is a very nice pepper, and this pepper is generally used a lot for pickling, and one of the reasons why it's preferred as a pickling pepper is, number one, its size, and it's nice and small, and you can pickle them and jar them really easy and pack them in a jar. The other reason is that this wall thickness on these peppers are very thick. Wall thickness, very thick pepper, and that makes a nice pickling pepper in a sense where you're serving steak or you're serving a very nice meal, you know, maybe a seafood meal or something you're going to serve these pickled peppers with. You kind of want that thick wall thickness. It's just a nice effect. But it is a sweet pepper, so we don't have to worry about heat today. And I don't know, let's give it a go. You could see the wall thickness on this is pretty thick on there. That's like a bell pepper wall thickness. It's got a nice thick wall on it, and that's a nice feature for pickling. Now, they call it a paprika pepper because I believe the term or the name paprika is just another language for pepper. And we know it in America. We know it in America. When we say paprika in America, we're generally referring to a powder that you use in your cooking, paprika powder. That's what we know it as. We don't know paprika as just another name or a language meaning pepper in another language. So when we say paprika, we're referring to a specific kind of a powder or pepper specifically. So that's why some people might get this confused, like, oh, I'm growing paprika. I don't know if this is the exact paprika that you're going to get in your paprika powder, for example. I don't know if this is going to dry and taste the same way. It might not. So just keep that in mind if you're someone who's growing these peppers to try to get paprika powder. I don't know exactly what pepper is used to make paprika. It could be a very certain kind of a pepper to get that taste out of it, and it may not be this at all. This is just named the Alma Paprika Pepper. Doesn't mean that they're using it for paprika. So just keep that in mind. I kind of thought it was paprika, but there's a lot of different peppers available on the market that go under the term paprika, so it's really hard to define exactly which one is going to make paprika powder. And you want that paprika taste. You know, if you're trying to, like, if you make an egg salad, for example, and you want to put a little paprika on your egg salad, I don't know if you're going to get that paprika taste out of this if you dry it and made egg salad and put it on there. It's going to taste like that. I don't know. So it has to be kind of tested and examined, and I'd have to fool around with that for a while and see if we can get the actual flavor of paprika as we know it in the USA to come out of this pepper. But it's a sweet pepper, and it does have a nice, sweet, unique taste. I don't think I sense any heat on this. I'll take another bite, but I'm not sure because I just did a pepper review on a hot pepper about 20 minutes ago, and I thought my mouth was already readjusted, but there's a good chance that there may be a little heat on this. So let me take another bite. It's really hard to tell if there is a little bit of heat in this thing. Very, very hard to tell. There might be a little heat on this. Tiny bit. We're talking maybe 5 on the Scoville scale. I'm talking about sensing the most minute amounts of heat possible. It might be because it feels like my mouth got a little warm. But that could be because I ate a red pepper, hot pepper recently, and maybe my lips were a little tagged from the heat on that, and now that I'm eating this, it's kind of bringing that. Could be, so it's really hard to say, but so far I'm going to say it's a sweet pepper. Now, as far as taste goes, the taste, it's almost like it kind of has its own taste, but it does generally taste like a green bell pepper. But it does have its own taste in a sense that you can taste some overtones and undertones. They're not unpleasant, but they're unique to this pepper. They're not quite ordinary, should I say. They're not like the same thing you're going to taste over and over. It definitely has a slight taste of its own. And like I say, a lot of these, when you eat them fresh, they taste similar and they might taste the same, but once you dry these out, you're going to get a whole new flavor sensation. So it's really hard to say what this pepper will taste like once it's dried. But as far as eating this fresh, it's a very nice, sweet, fresh tasting bell pepper. Or I don't know if I want it. I think they call this pepper a basket pepper. These little ones, they call them basket peppers or pickling pepper, but it's not. You can't call it a bell. But it's a nice tasting pepper. The taste is not spicy. It comes and goes. It's just like you can cook with this the same way you can cook with a bell pepper. You can use this the same way. It's just a lot smaller. You're going to have to use more. I'm going to try to see if I can detect any heat on this. I'll take one more bite and see if there's any heat on it. I just finished the pepper. I ate the rest of that. And so far, there's really no heat on it. I must have drew a little bit of heat that was on my lips back in. That kind of made it a little warm. There's no heat on it. Sometimes some of these peppers might have a little bit of heat in them, like poblanos are like that. Some of them are like no heat at all, and then some of them got a little heat on them. Enough to open your eyes like, whoa, I didn't expect that, you know. So they're kind of unpredictable for heat and no heat. But it's a delicious sweet pepper. Definitely give this one a try. It's worth the trouble that you would go through to grow it out and get a lot of peppers. This is a very heavy producing pepper and grown in the right conditions and right soil. You'll get a lot of peppers off that plant. Well over 2 dozen. You might get 30, 40 of them. If you grow it right and you take care of it, you'll get a lot of peppers off it. It's a very heavy producing pepper plant. But it's a sweet pepper. Give it a go. I really don't know what else to say about it. I'll leave all the information in the description below. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.